Bienvenidos, damas y caballeros. Welcome back to Freeform Radio on that Freeform network. Remember to follow us on X and Facebook at Freeform Network. Send in those questions and suggestions, ffnquestions at gmail.com. But for one of your hosts, this is Freeform Radio. My name is Daniel. I got here Andy today.
All good, Andy. Welcome back. Everybody's back together, and let's get this rolling, man.
And we have Noel.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir. Back together here, getting this podcast going. Got some interesting conversation and the start of the NFL. So got good conversations going on. But let's jump right into it. Noel, fill us in. Deadpool and Wolverine movie. What are your thoughts? You watched it, I presume?
Yeah, I saw this yesterday, so it's like fresh in my mind. Really entertaining, overall good movie. Um, you could definitely tell, a lot of money went into the production, and you had a lot of cameos, which was expected, but some of them were like a little bit of surprise, and it was really good though, man. Like the team up, it worked, perfectly. They brought back Hugh Jackman, who had played Wolverine for, over a decade, multiple movies and all that stuff. So they brought him back. Ryan Reynolds played Deadpool, of course. This is the third entry in the franchise, and they just teamed up really well, man. And as it was a rated R movie, they leaned heavily into it. It was F bomb this, F bomb that, left and right, a bunch of blood, gore, and stuff. And it was what you expect of a Deadpool movie, especially combined with Wolverine in it. But yeah, I went with my brothers and my nephews, and it was a great time. I don't really go to the theater too often, and typically, if I do, it's like for like a horror movie or something. So this is one of my, I think probably this year, my only comic book movie that I've gone to see in theaters. So definitely worth it, worth the money, and it was like interesting surprise when we went to the theater and we were like in line to get food and stuff. One of the front receptionist at the theater, she asked us, she's like, "Hey, you're gonna see Deadpool and Wolverine?" We're like, "Yep." And she's like, "I didn't know. Did you know it's 3D?" And then we look up at the thing, and it's like it says 3D on there. I'm like, "Oh snap!" That was like a pleasant surprise. And she's like, "I'm so sorry. Let me give you your glasses." And she gave us the glasses. And I gotta say, man, that 3D, it elevated it. I think if it had just been a regular movie, it still would have been good, but the fact that it was 3D and like you could tell the technology has gotten better from, back in the early 3D days. And so it just made the movie that much more memorable and worthy of having watched in the theater.
Yeah, for sure. I know I said I presume you watched the movie, but yeah, I was actually one of the brothers that went watch it with you. And yeah, I remember when we bought the tickets, I didn't know it was 3D, or at least I didn't assume it was. So that was a surprise. And like you said, the 3D was on point. It was something that you really noticed it. Sometimes you got lost in it where you forgot you were watching 3D, but all you had to do was like look down for a second without your glasses and look back up, and you would see the difference right away. And it made a difference. You could tell the depth of field, and it just made the movie so much better. And you're right. To me, I thought it was a good movie, great movie, maybe you would say. Had some plot issues that I didn't really care for, but as far as the action, all the cameos, just the fan service that they did for Deadpool and Wolverine fans, it was top notch. Yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah, I would say, based on entertainment, 10 out of 10 for me for entertainment value. In terms of an actual story and just like an actual movie, if you look at it compared to any other movie, yeah, it's your it's nothing crazy. I would say 7.5 is like a honest score, because its story was cool, but it was, it wasn't anything special in terms of like what they were trying to do with the story. I am interested though, if it opens up the possibility of more X-Men stuff, and now we're gonna supposedly see Secret Wars coming up, so it'll be like X-Men versus Avengers type stuff. That would be really cool to see, I think, going forward.
Yeah, it's got me interested. In fact, that I started watching WandaVision, because supposedly a lot of this breaks off from there. The WandaVision and the last Doctor Strange movie. Those are the two that kind of introduce big time this split universe and that galactic interdimensional police force. I forget what their name is, the TVA or something like that. So
Mhm.
yeah, supposedly those are the two that really bridge and bring that part into the Marvel universe. So yeah, I started watching WandaVision. So far, so good. But yeah, it was good movie, Deadpool and Wolverine. Don't regret watching it. But I'm like you, I don't really go to the movies too often. So yeah, this is probably maybe my second movie this year, and but it was well worth it.
100%, man. And so like moving on to my next thing, actually sticking with comic book stuff. I recently watched the Flash TV show from 1990. So this is like over 30 years at this point. It released after Tim Burton's Batman. So Batman came out in 1989. This came out the year after, but you could tell it had a lot of influence from the Tim Burton movie. The orchestra sounds so much like the orchestra that was used in the Batman movie. So you got this like amped up orchestra. It, and if you like that kind of stuff in your movies, especially comic book stuff, I really enjoy like a good orchestra to bring like energy to the scene, energy to the moment. Um, some of the greatest movies have great orchestras, and hip hop and all that stuff sometimes it's cool to like in modern movies to like put it in there, but I feel like this 90 Flash is like a time capsule of when movies were like a specific style, they were made in a specific way, and it has a gritty feel to it, and it's got a cool feel to it, more mature, less the Flash in this show isn't comedic. He's more serious and grounded, and the villains are authentic, original. It's cool. Like and you got some like notable actors that went on to have a bigger career after that. So surprisingly, like in the show, I see a lot of actors every episode that I recognize that I saw from other shows later on, like Seinfeld and Frasier and all sorts of other shows down the line. And I was like, dang, so they probably got their start, in this show because it was one of the earlier, you know, um, performances of their career. And the actor that played Flash was a really good choice. The suit that they used was interesting. I had like a muscle design on the suit itself, and it was cloth versus like a leather or like a hard material. So it kind of looked a little funny, but overall it was cool. Um, the effects of his running, they didn't do too much CG, but obviously it has some, but it wasn't like over the top like in the modern version of the Flash. I think it came out in like the 2015-ish era, and it just recently wrapped up a couple years back. That one, it shows more like an electricity type thing as he runs, whereas this one is more just him running, and there's just like the wind like behind him kind of thing. So there's no electricity or anything like that, and it also shows you point of view. So like you see like him running as if it was you running, and then it's just accelerated movement, and it was interesting. I thought it was cool for the 90s. um have you guys ever heard of this one?
Yeah, I'm aware of it. I remember being on CBS. I remember watching a couple episodes, and to me, I don't have that fond of a memory like you do, but it was just I remember being kind of fucking corny. And then they released a DVD set when DVD started getting really popular. The box, the seasons. I think they released it late '90s, maybe early 2000s, a box set. And I remember renting them on Netflix and rewatching them and thinking like, "Oof, this is kind of rough." Like, Yeah, it's as bad as I remember, and I couldn't. I think I watched like the first disc, and then I got the other disc out of my queue. But this was, yeah, like the time, like you said, with the Batman being so popular and all that, they were trying to capture that. I know CBS, when we would go to comic book conventions, there were bootleg VHS tapes. This is around the same time they made a Justice League TV pilot. I think you might see it on YouTube, based off of, because I think the Flash had early success, but then kind of fizzled out, and they made a pilot, and that was kind of rough too. And they had a lot of known TV actors, like you talked about in the Flash, that went on to do other things, and it was just like, I watched that a couple times. I think the Justice League was kind of decent. I just remember the costumes weren't really working. Like you said, that cloth material, the muscle stuff, it wasn't like, it didn't look real to me. And it had a lot of like B characters. But the Flash, the only thing I remember is like the Flash, and then they had Mark Hamill, right, as one of the bad guys, and like that's about it. That's all I remember from that show.
Yeah, no, he had played the Jester.
Yeah.
And what's interesting to me about him playing the Jester in The Flash in 1990 is this is before the animated Batman that came out a few years later in like, I think 92 or something. And
Yeah.
that's where he used his voice to make the Joker voice, right? So to me, the
Yeah, it's
Jester was
similar.
like, yeah, it's like a early version of Joker is what I would look at it. And then a couple years later, he does the actual Joker voice, and he's been doing it since. Like he's still the voice of Joker, but I think he kind of retired after unfortunately Kevin Conroy passed. But
Yeah, after he passed, he said he ain't doing it no more.
right, but yeah, so yeah, the 1990, like you said, it is corny, but that's what I come to expect of it, right? Like it only lasted one season. I think it was 22 episodes.
Yeah.
Um, it would have been cool to see more of it, and they were limited, right? I'm sure the budget was limited, and I'm sure that they couldn't really do it as flashy as like a feature film like the Batman or whatever. And um, but it was cool nonetheless. I enjoyed it at least. I think it was like a dark aesthetic to it. Um, I think it's worthy of watching if people like the Flash. Give it a shot. And last thing I wanted to say, Dexter. I don't know if you guys have seen that show.
No.
I saw there was something about the convention. He was in there talking about the show.
I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, I
Michael
saw.
C. Hall, the main actor.
Yeah, I saw something on Twitter that he showed up and was talking at the convention center in San Diego, I believe. And yeah, he was talking about something about the Dexter show, but I'm not really sure. I didn't really tune in and see what he was talking about.
Ah, yeah, I'm curious. I have to look that up later. Um, yeah, so Michael C. Hall was playing Dexter Morgan. He's a forensics scientist, and he's a side job or a side gig is being a serial killer that kills other evil people. So he has a code that he follows. Um, if you guys have never seen the show, I'm gonna have to spoil a little bit. But I mean, it's
All I
something that's
know is
brought up,
what Danny's told me in the past, and that's all I know. I think
I'll
they
see.
brought it back after it ended, right?
Yeah,
Because people were bitching about the ending.
yeah, man, that's unfortunate. Like, I don't want to spoil it for people that haven't seen it, but so the show ended on like on a low point. It was like it wrapped up kind of like Game of Thrones wrapped up. It was just like it kind of seemed like all that was for nothing. Yeah, you weren't expecting it to end that way. But then they brought it back. It's called Dexter New Blood, and it involves his son, which, spoiler, he has a son in the original Dexter show that he sends away to, be away from him, who because he knew that he would be a bad influence on his son. He's like, I can't be a father. Like, he's a serial killer, right? So in the show New Blood, his son is older and now comes to find him because he's like he wants to know who his father was, and then he finds out that he also has this what he calls a dark passenger. It's kind of like these urges to kill, and so Dexter starts to teach him his code and starts to teach him like you find people that are evil, that are bad, that somehow escaped the justice system and are out free and they shouldn't be and they're hurting people, and you have 100% proof, and then you kill them, and you kill them intelligently. You hide them, and you like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna try to get caught. Like, number one rule is don't get caught. So Dexter has a code. He follows it. He was taught by his adopted father, who's a cop, and he knew he had this issue. He knew he was gonna grow up to be a serial killer. He's like, the only way we can make this work is if you specifically target those that are deserving of that kind of justice, right? Like vigilante justice.
Right.
And so that's essentially what Dexter is, like a vigilante. And he's a forensic scientist, so he's really intelligent. He's kind of like a Sherlock Holmes type. He does a lot of like case solving on his own. Sometimes he'll find a case and he knows that the guy is going to get off scot-free, or before the cops can even find him, he'll find him and kill them. And it's interesting. I think if you guys have never seen it, definitely give it a shot. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say for this recent week. Just been watching a lot of stuff, but
Hey Noel, on Dexter, just really quick, I just Googled it, and yes, he's coming back to do another show. It's going to be airing in 2025. He's going to be the voice for the son, and it's called Dexter Resurrection. So, new Dexter show coming in 2025. Michael C. Hall, he'll be the inner voice for his son now.
Dang, that's gonna be cool, man. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Honestly, that makes sense because yeah, he's had a lot of like cameo appearances in the original show where even though some of the characters are dead, he hears their voice in his head. And so for him, his voice to be in the son's head, perfect, like, segue to get that going. Nice. I'll be interested in that for sure. But yeah, so again, moving on to Andy now. Looks like you've been watching the Olympics, Andy.
Yeah, real quick, let me switch it up here. Talking about, you mentioned the Dexter news was coming from the Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con this year. And I want to talk about that because basically the convention, and I feel like the past couple of years, I mean, the last decade or so, it used to be such a big deal. And like lately, I mean, the last couple of years, I mean, maybe because of the pandemic, it's just like a non-factor. Nobody talks about it. There's no hype. I know a lot of the companies are scaling back, and that includes the comic book publishers. Granted, I've never been to it, but when the movies got really popular, it got really blown out, like just pop culture wise. There's just all this stuff going on, and people are going to be there, all these celebrities and people having speaking engagements. I mean, it's been going on, I think, since late last week, and I haven't heard anything except, I think, last night, Robert Downey Jr., people went nuts. They're bringing back Avengers, and he's going to play Dr. Doom. So,
what?
that was like the only breaking thing that I saw. Otherwise, like, well, I'm like, oh, Sandy, the Comic-Con's going on? Like, I had no fucking idea. I mean, pop culture-wise, like, and how, we were all into our local conventions here. I mean, it was kind of, I was like, damn, like, does no one give a fuck or nobody care about what's going on? Or is it just, is the movies, the comic and all that, is all that played out now? What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know. I know Wolverine or Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, they were doing some press junkets in the San Diego Comic Book Convention, this Dexter thing, and like you said, Robert Downey Jr. being, Dr. Doom was big news. They announced a couple new comics, which I don't really read too much comics, but the Spider Gwen Stacy is coming out with her own comic. But you're right. I mean, it used to be a lot bigger. San Diego, when I was an avid comic booker collector, it was the convention that would get me jealous, because even though we had Wizard World and we had C2E2 here in the Chicagoland area, San Diego was always like the best. And I never had a chance. Yeah, I never had a chance to go check it out. This year does seem kind of lighter in news. I believe it's going on today as well. So, not sure if anything else is gonna leak or come out or be announced. Maybe they're waiting for the last day of the convention.
Well, that's what I'm
But
saying. Like the speak like Kevin Smith and like you don't hear any of that. And like I'm on Twitter or X and it's not even trending. The only reason I saw it is because somebody I follow posted that they're there, and I'm like, what? Oh, it's going on right now. But and I just clicked on the hashtag and I saw I'm like, oh, okay, so it's been going on for like the last couple of days. But the only thing that was trending was the Robert Downey Jr. thing that I saw anyway.
well, I know Kevin Smith. He debuted his trailer there as well for his new movie that he's working on. I think it's like a love comedy. I forget what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he debuted his
Yeah.
trailer there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Like that's what I'm saying. It used to be like they would show test footage and like sneak peeks, and like I haven't heard anything. I mean, I read that they were showing something, and people were like, "Yeah, like this is okay." Like people weren't really excited about it, but other than that, yeah. I mean, I guess I would from going off of years past. I know the pandemic changed a lot, but it used to be just like constant wall to wall stuff on my feeds on Facebook and Twitter. Now I just like it's not even a blip. Like, and I do follow some like comic book pages and channels and all that, and they're like, nobody's really talking about it. I don't know if that whole scene, the convention scene's like it's not gonna be as big as it used to be. I guess is what I'm saying, and um, I don't know how big. I don't even know how big the San Diego one is now compared to back in the day. You know, I can't imagine it's that massive as it used to be.
Yeah, I think part of it is like just fatigue of all this comic book stuff. You know, after Endgame, I want to say Marvel kind of fell off, man. And I've seen some of their newer
Yeah,
stuff and the Immortals and all this other ones that they came out with, and none of them stood out. Like I honestly I can't even recall what really happened in those movies. They're like so forgetful and or so forgettable and underwhelming. And I think yeah, people are just fatigued with all this comic book stuff. So maybe it's not.
saturation, I think.
Yeah, you know, and then it's just not good. Like they're just putting throwing money at
Yeah,
something that's not good. And on top of that, and really quick, I end it with this is that all the people that made Marvel Cinematic Universe what it is, like the height of what they got, all those people are getting older, man. Everybody that was in the Avengers, even right here, I'm looking at Robert Downey. Once you mentioned that, I'm like, he's gonna be Doctor Doom, and the picture that it shows him, I'm like, man, he looks old, man. And I'm like, I don't know how they're gonna do this or why they chose him for this, but we'll see, man. I don't know.
it's because I think he's gonna be in a mask, so you don't have to be there half the time. Like you just have a guy. That's what I'm assuming, and he got paid a shit ton of money.
That's a
But
good
that
point.
casting, uh, I don't see it him as Doctor Doom, but I don't know. People are gonna be like, "Oh, why is Tony Stark a bad guy?" The average person, I think that's what they're gonna get, and we'll see, man. I'm just like, me and Danny and to even Efren and you, like, we were schedule or stuff around conventions here in Chicago and Wizard World when that came here, and then when C2E2 at the end when they came in here, because Wizard World started changing into something else. It's just like people were just coming autograph seeking, and so it's kind of morphed into something different. And even some of like the we would go to like just actual comic book conventions, like in the ones in Rosemont where the people would had comic books, like the small ones, like that's not even around no more as far as I know. I mean, like I'm actively seeking them out. So with that being said, what do you guys think at ffnquestions@gmail.com? Would you go? What's your experience? Because um, again, I don't hear anybody really talking about it. It's not trend. It's not trending on social media like it used to. And part of it, I think, like Noel said, the fatigue, the saturation. It's just so much shit out there. Like people are just like done. I think they're ready to move on to some other stuff. But franchises and properties just keep making it. People keep watching it. Like real quick, Just throwing this out there. Did anybody watch the Halo series? I read that it got canceled. I didn't even know it made it to a second season because nobody talked about it. I just knew it was in those Super Bowl commercials a couple years back.
No way, they canceled it?
Plus. It got canceled, yeah. I don't even know what the hell was going on.
So yeah, I actually bought the physical season 1 and 2 steelbooks. I thought it was good, man. Production wise, it was on point. Like it was, whatever you want to call like of a AAA game. Like it was like that for TV. It was like a AAA level production, and I thought it was interesting. But I could see, because it cost so much to make and they weren't probably getting the numbers they wanted to get, I could understand why they canceled it. But it's a bummer, man. They always do that shit. Like they get people hyped up and following them, and then they just pull the rug from under you, man.
You're too busy watching Flash from the '90s, dude. You need to re-stream it.
Right.
Watch it.
You gotta watch some of this newer stuff, man.
That's horrible, unfortunately. Even like you said, the '90s, like it's not bad, and you think of shit that you watch now, and you're just like, yeah, I wasted an hour or whatever.
But I know that old Flash. You gave me the old DVD that you had, and I'm kind of curious to watch a few episodes, even though I told Andy that you had given me the DVD, and he's just like, "Oh, get ready for some bad TV watching." And I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's gonna be like that bad that's so good because you got to watch it kind of thing. So I'm curious to at least watch an episode or two.
Yeah, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's not like amazing, but it was entertaining, right? Like it's if you like
90s,
Flash,
right? You're gonna instantly know it's like '90s shit, and like '90s,
right?
It has good stuff and bad shit, like, and that's not good shit. Unfortunately, but it's great to watch, and then you're just thinking like, huh? Like when we were talking about, real quick before we go to the Olympics, me and Danny was talking about like, oh yeah, I'm rewatching Tales from the Crypt, the TV show from the '90s on HBO, and I'm like, yeah, I remember I talked about it, somebody uploading like volumes of VHS tapes when they were releasing them on YouTube, and this guy, and I was watching them, and like some of that, like a lot of them, it was like each tape was like 2 hours long. It's about 3 or 4 episodes. The episodes are really good. I mean, it was '90s, you could tell, but the story, they had good actors. Like, yeah, this is good. Like, I could rewatch all of this. And when you get stuff like the Flash or some other stuff that like Superman in the '90s and syndication or shit like that, you're just watching it like, man, I used to think this was the shit. And you look at it now, it's like, it's okay, but it's not as good as you remember. But like the Tales from the Crypt from the '90s, that holds up to now. So I don't know if you're gonna have that with the Flash then.
Well, I mean, you like Superman and Lois, and so I'm like, if you like that, I think you'll like the Flash, based on that. Especially they're both DC and around the '90s, so it's worth trying.
Yeah, '90s stuff. Like I said, it's they tried some original stuff because in the '80s, a lot of that comic book stuff didn't work, so they kind of gave up on it. And then with the Batman movies, they kind of retried doing some of that stuff. But just real quick, let's go to the Olympics started, and I don't know. I was watching the intro. I mean, I'm like I pop my head in and out on those Olympics, and I was watching the opening ceremonies, and that was trending because I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch the opening ceremonies. They were making fun of, or not making fun. They were, if you're a Christian, you would probably get offended of what you saw because it was pretty. They were mocking the Last Supper portrait that not everybody, but everybody's seen. They're mocking it with they were putting it of people who talk about pronouns. They're a big indicator, and a lot of people who probably are not Christians mocking Jesus and all that, and that got trending on Twitter, and a lot of people were pissed off. I was kind of showing my wife this, like, look at this, and she's like, what's this about? Like, this doesn't make sense. I'm like, yeah, it's just people mocking Jesus. Like, that's the thing in France who have with the big time Catholics and what used to be. I don't know about now, but did you guys get a chance to see clips, or did you see the people posting like pictures of it and like getting all scantily clad men and women and like people who are trans, doing dancing and like little kids? It was just weird.
Yeah, they're like right now is a weird time, man, and they're pushing like this agenda pretty hard. It's really creepy, man. And the other day I saw on Instagram, I was just scrolling through every now and again. I'll go on there for like 5 minutes and just see what's up, like headlines and stuff. And I saw, oh, look at the uniforms everybody's gonna be wearing in all the different countries and comparing it. And I'm just like, yo, wasn't the Olympics about like being the best athlete? And like, when did that change? Like, what is this, a fashion show over here? It's like, I don't know. I don't get it, man.
But yeah, I mean, it's everybody. Again, it's France, and you're supposed to celebrate their culture and what they're about, why they become the host country in Paris, and like everybody does their little thing. Like, but this was just like, wow, man, like this is rough. This is rough to watch, and a lot of people expressed their discomfort on Twitter. It's more than normal, and people started saying like, "Well, why don't you poke fun or mock Islam and stuff like that?" Because those people probably they go nuts and start bombing and beheading people. The Christianity is just supposed to be tolerant and just take it, and when they're mocking your savior right there on your TV screen, and people started posting videos of their reaction to this, and some people were like aghast at what they were seeing.
Well, I don't know. The Bible does say in Matthew's, turn the other cheek. So people shouldn't be offended by it. And I haven't watched it, so I'm not really sure what you're describing and what it looks like. I saw some pictures people posting online, and I assume that's what you're describing, but I haven't really seen much of anything on there, or at least not in the total contents of the start to the end. But yeah, even if they are trying to mock it or maybe pay homage, I'm not really sure. But it shouldn't bother anybody. It's one person's opinions. People shouldn't get offended by stuff like that.
That's an interesting take. Uh, yeah, I think you should be offended because they're mocking our Lord and Savior, and they always constantly knock on Christians as being intolerant, and yet they were always the ones being picked on, and nobody. And then we say anything, it's just like you're bigot or intolerant. So, and
There you
I
go.
feel like
I just proved them wrong. I'm tolerating of it. No problems. Go ahead. Do your thing.
okay, so just let them keep blaspheming God and Jesus.
I mean, they're the ones that are going to have to pay for it. I'm not, so I'm going to be all good with JC. I think those people are the ones that are going to have some issues. But I understand what you're saying. It is frustrating and it is difficult to ignore it. But yeah, they'll be judged. I'm not the judger. So I'll pray for them. And
You judge a lot, dude.
well, I judge you when you eat like an extra slice of pizza, stuff like that. Like I'll judge you hard for that. But
that one is like, this is unacceptable. I must
right,
say
yeah. When you grabbed an extra pepperoni slice, I'm like, hey Andy, take it easy. But for something like this, I don't know.
Wait for everybody else to grab a slice.
Right.
But no, seriousness. I mean, watch it. I mean, it'll be interesting to see hear your thoughts on it. Like I get you, you gotta be tolerant, but it gets to a point where it's just like I guess it's coming to a head with what's going on in this world, and it's rough, man. And then we'll see. Let us know what you guys think at fnquestions@gmail.com. Danny's a tolerant one. I mean, I personally, a lot of stuff I don't care about. We're all adults, but this one, when it comes to the religious stuff, like you gotta respect everybody's religion. I mean, that includes, Buddhist and Muslim.
For sure.
We might not agree and stuff, but hey, as long as you're not hurting people. But this stuff is just it's constant, and it gets to a point where like sometimes you gotta say stuff. So, but let's change it up here. Let's lighten the mood. I was gonna see like Danny watched Butterfly in the Sky. Is that a movie?
No, no, man. This is the documentary that Netflix did for Reading Rainbow. It had
I guess
it
it
had
is
Jordy
lightened. Yeah.
it had Jordy LaForge. I forget the actor's name
Yes.
now. Burton or what's his
Oh,
Kunta
LeVar
Kinte.
Burton.
LeVar Burton. Yeah, there you go.
Kunta Kinte.
Yeah. But yeah, man. Well, yeah, that's one of his other roles. And actually the documentary goes into it because his role in Roots helped him get to be one of the top contenders for Butterfly in the Sky, or not Butterfly in the Sky, but Reading Rainbow. And yeah, man, because of that, it like catapulted him to really pick whatever role he wanted. So yeah, I watched this documentary. It's on Netflix. I really encourage people, especially people who watched Reading Rainbow back in the day. This is a very excellent documentary that kind of goes over it. He's a part of this documentary, so he kind of really speaks candidly about him being himself on the show, how they were pioneering a bunch of different ideas that PBS at the time was not doing, and also about some of the uh, kickback that he would get from the producers as far as, hey, we want you to do this more, we want you to do that more. And LeVar would just be like, no, I'm going to be me. I'm not going to be fake for these people. They're going to see who I am in the show. And sure enough, he stuck to his guns and it just kept going up and up and up. And just until recently, it just got canceled and it's not on syndication anymore, or at least it's not being filmed live anymore. But documentary is very cool. A bunch of old guests came on, some old producers came on to kind of speak about the history of it. Really cool. I think you watched it, Andy. I'm not sure if you watched
I
any of
did,
this,
and
Noel.
I didn't know of it.
I mean,
But
Reading
yeah,
Rainbow.
the Reading Rainbow. I watched Reading Rainbow as a
Right.
kid, and like the two things that stick out is the theme song, right, and then the guy from Star Trek. That's like the thing I remember the most. And is this on Netflix or Prime or?
Netflix. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So did you watch Reading Rainbow, Noel?
No, man. I know what you're talking about, but I don't think I ever watched it. I'm actually trying to look it up to see what it is even about.
It was kind of Mr. Rogers'
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood kind of feel, speaking to the kids and trying to go one on one with them and get them to read. So every episode, they would like showcase like 4 or 5 books, and they would have kids giving suggestions. The show themselves would give a suggestion of the week or whatever, where he would be like, "This is the book that I would recommend." And all the books, for the most part, were pretty easy reads. It was, you know, aimed for kids. If I had to take a guess, anything from toddler to maybe like 12 years old. But it was for younger kids, trying to get you to read instead of, going onto computers and doing other stuff. And for the most part, or at least the show, obviously I stopped watching it once I became a little older, but
After high
according to
school?
them, they right after I graduated high school, I stopped. But before that, I would watch it, and allegedly, it was still very popular, almost up to its end. So, really cool documentary. You guys should check it out, especially if you've seen Reading Rainbow and you want to see some of the behind the makings and whatnot. Really cool documentary. Um, Staying on Netflix, I watched another one that's kind of a little more sinister. Our Father. I'm not sure if you guys watched that one on Netflix. This one talks about how a fertility doctor was helping parents that were having issues, conceiving because of the dad, where the dad had a low sperm count. So this was, I believe he was in Indiana. He was one of the top fertility doctors, and he would help all these people, and he was like renowned. So everybody would come to his facilities for his help. And what he would end up using is, instead of going to a sperm donor facilities where people would donate sperm, he would actually use his own, and he was the father of like hundreds and hundreds of kids. And the documentary kind of goes into a lot of the details, but he would actually, because the sperm needs to be warm and live and whatnot, he would go and do it at the moment of the appointment. He would excuse himself, let me get some more equipment, and while he was excusing himself, he would go and get a live sample and then come in and impregnate these women. So very sick and kind of morbid documentary that goes into this fertility doctor. And then people found out, they sued him, and the documentary kind of goes into that.
Yeah, that's the only question. How did they find out? Like, what happened to that? Like, let's just test everybody. Like, the whole happened.
I think it all started with, how they're people are doing more of those ancestry blood tests. Well, people would send them in, and I guess I've never done it, so I don't know what it looks like, but they would chart people that you may be related to, like, oh, this person might be a cousin of yours or a second half brother or whatever. So as people were more and more were doing it, they would get pinged as, oh, you might have a half brother out there. And then so you would get pinged and told that this is a person that you may be related to. So then people started connecting and kind of emailing each other like, hey, I may be your half brother. Were you also, a fertility baby and this and that? And they just kept tracking it back and forth. And the spider web just kept getting bigger and bigger until it all came back to this doctor. And they finally got him to give a DNA sample. And then sure enough, he came out being the father of all these kids. So really, really sick. He was a pastor as well at his church. So this guy, from start to end, he did not omit anything. So even when they found him guilty and all that stuff, he was still adamant about it wasn't him. So really sick documentary, kind of in my Netflix binging of documentaries. So yeah, if you're interested in that, definitely take a peek. Just something new that I watched on Netflix. Something else that I watched on Netflix is The Mind of Aaron Hernandez. I knew he killed himself a few years back. He was the tight end for the Patriots, New England Patriots. But I never really even knew much about him as a football player. When they were going through the documentary, it was a couple episodes, the documentary, in the first episode or two, were basically talking about his college career and his NFL career. And I didn't know that he was that good of a player, and they were boasting him up. And from some of the highlights, some of the highlights that he did, he was a good tight end. I don't know if you watched him, Andy, while he was actually for the Patriots.
I heard about the revelations from the doc. I think there's 2 documentaries going around, the Netflix one. I think there's another one.
But I mean, did you see him as a football player while he was a football player?
Him and Gronkowski were and Brady were it's great. They had 2 good tight ends with Gronkowski and Hernandez, and he was good. He was a stud in Florida too. I mean, he was. I think Belichick underestimated how good he was when they drafted him, but yeah, he was pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's exactly that. I don't think anybody really thought he was going to be that great because at least this documentary kind of goes into a little bit of his personality issues because he was a huge pot smoker, and there was some inconsistencies in his personality where sometimes he'd be really chill and cool, and then sometimes he'd kind of fly off the handle. And I guess the NFL does extensive, profiles on these players to kind of see what kind of person they're going to be. Are they going to be able to handle stress and adversity and stuff like that? And I guess he graded low and stuff like that. Like they thought he would have challenges dealing with just issues that you would deal with while you're in the NFL. but the Patriots gambled on him. He went kind of low on the draft, but yeah, man, he was an awesome player, but ended up killing his best friend. And then after they found him for that, they ended up finding out that he killed two other people. And then the documentary just keeps opening up.
I read that they think there's more, but he did what he did. But going back to that test, it's like that's one of the things I found out I think a couple years ago, that a lot of the like high draft picks, I don't think they do them on all, but like high, they do this test on them. One, to see how smart they are, and two is like a personality test. And I didn't know this, and I was thinking like, damn, like you're gonna give these kids like millions of dollars, and you're thinking like, how can they handle things? And think about how many times like Hernandez failed, and they still, or he scored poorly. How many of them, like the owners and GM said, screw it, like this guy got the talent, we got to get him. So imagine that, like, and people who score really high and they have issues, like who doesn't have issues? But think about that, like that's to me, it's like pretty fucking insane. Like you got all this information, and a lot of it is just like when people would have character issues, which Hernandez had from day one, and it was there's another documentary where they really covered his issues and how he grew up and all this. Like he was messed up. It was a messed up childhood, and then they get him in that environment, and then like with the marijuana and all this other stuff, that he had a lot of issues that were covered up in Florida, allegedly. And then they do this test, and he didn't, according to the document, he didn't do well, so and they still take a chance on him. So it's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I think as more and more money is involved, the NFL's just trying to protect their investment. And yeah, documentary goes into more of it, more of the details about the killings that he did, about his like kind of polar personality, and then his eventual suicide at the very end. But yeah, cool documentary. You guys should go check it out. But guys, I think we're running a little low on time. Let's jump into that article of the week, man. Let's talk about it. So our article this week, Andy, it's one that I ended up finding on the NewYorkTimes.com, The Athletic, and it's talking about pre-training camp for NFL, the power rankings. From the Chiefs and the 49ers to the Texans and the Bears, talking about all the NFL teams here. The article kind of goes into detail or a little summary about every NFL team that's out there, kind of giving you a quick rundown about what they perceive the team, whether it's going up or down, and some pluses or minuses. I'll just run through a couple of quick highlights of some of these teams. Number one on their list as far as rankings for this year, it's Kansas City Chiefs again. They were the Super Bowl winners last year with an 11-6 record. Not much change with that team. They're pretty much the same, a few minor tweaks here and there. San Francisco 49ers, they lost the Super Bowl, had a better record of 12-5. Kind of same thing. Didn't really change much as far as personnel this year. So they're kind of expected to do the same or hopefully elevate and get a little better. Detroit Lions, they lost their NFC championship game, but they were a huge contender, especially because they had a huge uprise from the year prior. So Detroit Lions. Houston Texans, they lost their AFC divisional game and were knocked out. They're number 4. And then last one, I'll kind of go into you can go through the rest and see the rest. But Baltimore Ravens, they lost their AFC championship, and they're ranked number 5 on this list. The Bears, unfortunately, Andy, they're not even in the top 10 here, man. They're number 15, so they're kind of like the middle of the pack. But not sure. I know, Andy, you're an avid football player. I don't think you watch too much, Noel. But what was your thought about the initial rankings of this list, Andy?
I don't know. I mean, like the top four. I mean, the Chiefs, and then what is it, San Francisco, and then I mean the guys pretty playing safe. Detroit and Houston. I think Houston's kind of high up there. Um, I don't know. Detroit, to me, you know how I feel about Detroit. The Chiefs, they got fucking Mahomes. That guy's unstoppable when he gets going. Even though I think he was injured a lot last year. Um, the 49ers, man, I think they're just like that team that's always good with their coach. He's just with Shanahan. I think they're just like the feeling is like I feel like they're never gonna win. They're gonna get up there and then they're just gonna lose.
They're gonna be like the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, dude. Like they've had like with a different coach with Harbaugh and different quarterbacks, and they just keep finding people to win because I like his scheme, Shanahan's scheme. But they just can't get over that hump. And then when they traded for McCaffrey, and then they went to the championship, and then they went to the Super Bowl, and then I'm just like, oh, maybe, but it just, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like they're ever going to win it. In Houston, I don't know about Houston in the top four. Maybe Baltimore belongs higher. The Browns, come on, dude. The fucking Browns. I don't think they have. Well, if their quarterback Deshaun gets better, I mean, he was out last year. Cowboys, come on, bro. Cowboys lost to Packers. The Packers, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. The Packers, man. We're waiting for them to lose. Then they got Buffalo and Philly. The Bears, like I don't know, dude. I've been hearing stuff about the Bears in the mini camp, and I heard a lot of this shit I'm hearing now. I heard last year, and I think last year there was a lot of hype around Justin. Like he was making these incredible throws to the receiver, Moore, and all this other shit. And then just look what happened. And we're hearing the shit with Caleb, with Adunze and Moore, and then they got DeAndre Swift as a running back. I don't know. I'm hearing stuff about the O-line. It's kind of battered up. They need help. But like I said, it's. I think we'd be lucky if we go 500. You know, I think that's the best we could hope for. People hoping for playoff run or something. I don't think that's going to happen this year.
So Noel, I know you don't watch too much about football. Do you get into it at all? Do you watch anything at all on this?
You know, but back in the day I did, man. But at some point after, I think like 2008, 9-ish, definitely after when the Bears lost against the Colts at the Super Bowl, I just kind of stopped watching as much and stopped getting as interested. And I get it, people like it and all that, and I used to like it, but I'm just tired of being upset every Sunday, dude. I'm just like,
That's very true.
I'm like, let me not, do that. Let me not ruin my Sunday every time.
Yeah, for sure. Being a Chicago fan, me myself a White Sox fan, it's been a tough year. The White Sox are probably the worst they've been ever, and
Yeah.
I'm hopeful for the Bears this year. But Andy, since you're familiar with this, let me go over some of these quick highlights on some of these teams. Houston, Texas, man, they add on Stephon Diggs. Do you think that's going to make an impact? It's a new player that they're picking up, good wide receiver.
They got lucky. They had a rookie quarterback, and they did some things. But once the league gets film on you, they're gonna kind of correct it, and then he's gonna have to adjust. So with the quarterback that they got, the kid from C.J. Stroud or whatever, they're gonna have to adjust, dude, because it's gonna be we'll see. They got film on him now, so let's see what he does. The second year, there's always that second year, like on rookies, they talk about the second year. There's a regression because the league figures them out, and then let's see what he does after that.
And then number 7, Dallas Cowboys. This is the last year for Dak Prescott on his contract. Do you think he's going to have a great year? It almost seems like the owner, Jerry Jones, isn't really doing much this year. So I'm not sure if he's letting Dak just crash and burn so he can kind of start over. What are your thoughts on Dallas?
I think that's what's going to happen. I think they quoted Jerry Jones in a press conference. He's all in on this year. So if shit doesn't happen this year, and I think what he means by that, them getting to the Super Bowl minimum, I think he's gonna blow this whole fucking team up. The Prescott and Lamb, CD Lamb, and then they got Micah Parsons or whatever. I think they brought back Zeke Williams, but there was so much hype around them, and they fucking choked to the Packers. Yeah, dude, I think if they don't go far, I mean, I'm talking about Super Bowl or bust. I think Dak's not gonna get his extension, and like he's gonna just start all over from the beginning because Jerry Jones is old. He talking about he's old and he wants another Super Bowl basically, and he's ready to do whatever it takes. Like he'll blow it up or see what they do. But I don't think Dallas. There's always hype around Dallas, and then they always stink.
So the Packers ranked number 8th. Man, it just came out, I think, yesterday or the day before. Jordan Love signs 4-year contract for $220 million. Do you think that's going to have a huge impact? They picked up a few odd and end players, but Matt LaFleur, man, I think he's legit, man. I think Aaron Rodgers kind of held him back a little bit, but he seems pretty adequate, man, or at least a good enough coach.
I think LaFleur was lucky with Rodgers. Let's see what this kid does. He was riding the bench. I mean, I think that helped him out a lot, but I mean, let's see what happens, man. I think the Packers kind of jumped the gun on that one, but we'll see.
Yeah, to me, I think it's kind of a little excessive. It's only 1 year that Jordan Love's played, so we'll see if he's worth it, man. Buffalo Bills, number 9. They lost that Stephon Diggs, but still have a great team. Are they still going to be up there? They're projecting number 9 on this list.
It's another team, dude, that the quarterback that they got is like this stud, and he throws.
Josh Allen.
He got numbers, and he wills his team to win, but they can't win in the playoffs. I mean, or they always start off hot, and then like something happens, they get derailed, and like they never really get it going again. And I don't know. Is this their year? I don't know. I don't. There's not a lot of hype around them, so maybe. But it's Buffalo, so I don't know. I don't know what to make of them anymore. It's another team, like I said. It's and without Diggs, I don't know what they're gonna do.
We got the Eagles, number 10, man. They got a new offensive coordinator. I don't know if Jalen Hurts can really do it this year, man. I think they lost their center, which it's a key piece on your offensive line, but I'm sure you could plug someone in there. But not many other pieces added or removed. Do you think Philly still at the top at number 10 right now?
I think they got Rangio as a DC defensive coordinator this year or last year, so I think their defense is going to be better. Jalen Hurts talked about like they were so good last year in the beginning, and then something happened, and they never really got it going. I don't know. Maybe they can make a run. Philly's always been weird. Like they find something when they get going, man. They get going, and like you saw that playoff run from a couple of years ago, they just couldn't win it. But they were dominating the NFC for a long time, and then like last year, something happened, and they couldn't get together as a team. Jalen Hurts was talking about we just couldn't, get it going. Like the team was kind of having a bad vibe or something. It's just like weird. Like I don't know. Philly's always been weird. They're like I could see them making a run if they get hot at the right time, but I don't know.
We got the Miami Dolphins, number 12. Tua Tagovailoa signed a 4-year contract as well for $212 million. What do you think about that signing? Jesus.
A guy that with that quarterback, he's always hurt too. So.
Right.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't know what they're gonna do. Yeah, they're always in the middle of the pack.
And then speaking of hurt quarterbacks, New York Jets, how's Aaron Rodgers going to do? Is he healthy this year? Is he going to play?
I don't know, dude. I think this is the final year of his deal, right? Or I don't know. I don't see, for some reason, I don't see him completing the year. It's like he was talking the other day to a podcast with Big Cat, and he's just like kind of laid back and shit, and like he's talking about how training camps suck back in the day, like it was harder than it is now, but he didn't want, there was issues that he didn't want to do some of the training and all this other stuff. So I don't know. I just don't see him completing the year with the Jets.
Skipping down to the Bears, number 15, Caleb Williams, quarterback, Rome as the wide receiver, Kalen Allen, that veteran, picked up as a wide receiver, running back, DeAndre Swift. Man, seems like a pretty good. And then you got DJ Moore as a wide receiver is ready. Good. Offensive.
Was decent, yeah.
But I don't know. Like you mentioned, is the O-line good enough to protect all these people? Are they going to rush Williams and he's not even going to have a chance to throw it? So we'll have to see. You mentioned you're hoping for a 500 year.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I consider success. Well, to be successful, I guess would be 8-8, or they beat the Packers twice.
Nice.
That would be like, because the Packers is, because you know what? I'm not afraid of Detroit. I have a feeling the Bears will beat Detroit. I know they'll beat them. They beat them like every year. I mean, I think last year they went 1-1. Rarely do they lose. Don't beat them every year, but the Packers, the numbers. Oh God, I was hearing the numbers from Rodgers and all this other shit against the Bears. It was like a stop. Like I wanted to turn the radio off. But if they start off where like they beat the Packers at least once or twice, like I feel like they'll get that shit going, because for whatever reason they're always the team to beat. I know everybody's on Detroit, that they went to the championship and all this shit, but Detroit's Detroit, dude. I think they were 1-year wonders, and then let's see what happens. But yeah, they got to beat, to be successful, they got to go 500 or at least beat the Packers twice. They always, for some reason, they're in the mix of playoff runs or winning the division. And Minnesota's Minnesota. Dude. They got a new rookie quarterback. I don't know. They're not going to be as good.
So we got Atlanta Falcons, number 17. They just added Kirk Cousins, but they also signed that rookie quarterback, Pinks. So who knows how they're going to do. Hopefully it's an upgrade with Cousins, but I kind of feel bad. I think he's going to start, but then this quarterback, this new rookie quarterback, might be playing by the end of the year.
I think Cousins, when they drafted him, that whole nonsense with the draft pick, like nobody let me know, and like I was told I was the man, and he got paid. It's gonna be interesting to see what the hell happens with him. But it's Atlanta. Dude. Atlanta hasn't been good in forever, so we'll see what they do. I saw an interview the GM had when they drafted Phoenix from Washington. He was kind of like stammering up there, and like he was like nervous. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think he was kind of maybe forced to sign Cousins. I don't know.
And we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson is the quarterback, but they just added Justin Fields. And I was hearing on some sports radio this morning, Justin Fields actually taking all the number one reps because Russell Wilson's injured. He's got some kind of, I don't know, calf injury or something. So Justin Fields might be the starter in some of these early preseason games. What are your thoughts on the Steelers?
I don't know, man. They got two quarterbacks that are supposed to be studs, but we'll see. One's a Super Bowl winner, the other one a lot of upside potential, but I don't know. I think Fields personally.
The Bears ruined him.
It's like he's gonna do his thing. He's gonna run. He'll make some great passes, and then maybe they'll catch him there. A lot of the Bears that they had here, receivers sucked, but I think he's gonna do some runs. It's like Trubisky when he was at Pittsburgh in training camp in the first couple games. He was dropping dimes on people, and then shit just caught up with him. They figured him out a little bit, and then he couldn't adjust like he always did. So at least Fields can run. If there's nothing there, he's gonna take off.
A couple more here, really quick. Minnesota Vikings, they signed Justin Jefferson, to a 4-year, $140 million contract. No real quarterback. How are they going to do this year?
Gonna suck. They got a rookie quarterback, the kid from Michigan. I don't know if
Right.
he's playing somebody else or battling the job, but I think the Minnesota's gonna have a rough year.
And then the last one I kind of want to talk about is New England Patriots. They drafted Drake May. This is one of the quarterbacks that I was kind of interested in when the Bears were looking to draft a quarterback. What are your thoughts on the Patriots? Are they going to do anything this year?
I think the quarterback they had before him, the kid from Alabama, was good, except they didn't give him. They didn't even for 1 year. He didn't even have a real offensive coordinator. They had a defensive coordinator turned offensive coordinator be his coach, and then I think Belichick kind of messed them up. So I don't know. Maybe this kid, if they give him, I think they got a new coaching staff, so maybe he might have some potential. But yeah, Drake May, he was pretty good in college. See what happens, man. Everybody's waiting for the Patriots to come back and have that run like with Brady and Belichick, but I don't think that's going to come back ever. They should have enjoyed it while they had it, and I think they messed up when they saw Brady won a Super Bowl at Tampa and Belichick struggle. I think they knew they got rid of the wrong person.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of those other teams, we'll have to see how they all pan out. But yeah, we'll find out pretty soon with the Bears at the time of this recording next week. They have their first preseason, the Hall of Fame game, and preseason's starting up, man. Hopefully we'll have to see how they do.
I'm ready for NFL and college. I know I'm ready for college football. I'm ready for NFL football because baseball sucked this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get into college this year a little bit. I'm gonna try to watch a few games here and there and see if I can get into it. Pick a team or two to kind of root for. But yeah, man, I'm super stoked for the NFL starting up next week. Have to fill up my fridge with a bunch of chicken wings and get it ready. So when it's football time, get off the podcast and start watching some football.
No, that sounds good, man. I hope the Bears do good this year. Even though if they start doing well, maybe I'll get back into it, and then that way I can be a little bit more active in this conversation. But anyway, everybody, that's all we have for today. We want to thank you for joining us on the Freeform Network. If you're not already, please follow us on X at FFR Podcast. If you have any questions or suggestions, you want to let us know your thoughts on this upcoming Bear season, email that at ffnquestions@gmail.com. From Freeform Radio, my name is Noel, and we have Daniel.
Yes, sir. Getting hungry. I made up some guacamole yesterday. Tastes pretty good, man. I think I'm going to eat that for lunch.
Ooh, that sounds good, man. And we got Andy here.
It's all good, Andy. I want to thank you guys for listening. Hit me up on ffnquestions@gmail.com for any sports or pool things that everybody's doing, and then bear down and go Irish.
There we go. Well, everybody, we wish you a great night and a beautiful tomorrow.
That was cool, Dad.